A little bit about yourself. My name is Jack. I'm a student at the Pedagogical University. I'm not a local myself. I didn't really want to live in a hostel, yes. And I was not going to live there, but I had to for a while. All this time I was saving money from scholarships and part-time jobs. And as a result I rented a cubic piece in an old, probably post-war house. The apartment was rented by a woman in her 40s. I do not like these agencies, contracts and so on. And then he came, paid the money and settled. The woman looked somehow depressed and sad, or even agitated. There was clearly something wrong with her. She might be sick, I thought. I didn't ask anything, but still, as if a stranger, and I do not care about her problems. For 15 minutes she showed me the apartment and told me all the nuances of the counters and the like. Then she said something that made me tense up a bit. Jack, when you go to bed, always close the windows. She said this as if I didn't, then something bad would happen. Immediately I did not pay attention to this and asked, for what? Yes. There are lanterns above the road. The light bulbs have recently been replaced. They shine like the sun. Well, the light comes through the window, and the room is as bright as day. Okay, thanks for the warning, but I still felt like she was missing something. That's just what. I could not give myself an answer to this question, but he showed up after a couple of days. But first things first. After showing me the apartment and taking the money, the landlady left. I closed the door behind her and began unpacking my things, and, of course, it was necessary to clean up a little, apparently. No one has lived in the apartment for a long time. Of the neighbors, by the way, there is almost only one pension, which very rarely climbs out into the street. But such more or less young grannies and grandfathers sometimes sit on benches. In general, he did all the household chores, and it was about 6 o'clock in the evening. I put on my jacket and left the apartment. I had to go home and eat, still all day on his feet, not eating anything. There was a small deli nearby, so it didn't get far. It was getting dark outside. Some inexplicable anxiety rose inside me. Something was shrinking inside like that, and I didn't like it. Having bought groceries at the grocery store and going into our yard, I saw one interesting thing. People in the house curtained the windows, and on all floors, I became interested. I walked around the house on the other side. The same picture, strange. There are no lights here. The light doesn't go anywhere. Something is wrong here, like banality. Well, they closed the curtains and everything. But for some reason this fucking thought didn't get out of my head. With this thought, I went home. First night in a new home, I cooked dinner, fried potatoes in lard, meat, this is food. I understand, still some kind of mare on her knees, and it would be totally awesome. But since I didn't really stand out as a person, I had some difficulty with this. But not about that, something I dreamed about. I ate, opened laptop, and let's climb the internet. Thoughts about curtains and windows flew out of my head like a worker swearing at his boss from work. YouTube has taken over my mind. I sat like this until about 2 o'clock in the morning. Closing the laptop and turning over on its side, I thought to fall asleep. As the dogs began to bark in the street, you could hear it even through the closed windows. Because they weren't new, but rather Soviet production, if not earlier. It felt like they would just fall apart soon. Well, what do you want for that kind of money? I thought. Gradually, the aggressive barking of dogs turned into some kind of whining or something. I wonder what's going on there. I got out of bed and went to the window, pulled back the curtain. The dogs ran around the yard, and they whined. The whining was no longer audible, but it's still audible, having given up on all this horseradish. I went to the kitchen to drink some water, and went back to bed, with thoughts of fucking dogs. I still fell asleep, Waking up in the morning, I remembered that today is the second pair. And you can take a little nap. It was freezing outside. Well, it's almost winter outside. Drowsiness vanished as if by hand when a handprint on the window came into my field of vision. In terms of, I rubbed my eyes with my hand and finally woke up. In the corner of the window in the room, a handprint was clearly visible on the frozen window. He was outside the glass, and my surprise knew no bounds. I sort of live on the third floor. Surprise slowly began to give way to anxiety, the same that I experienced when I returned from the store yesterday. I sat silently in the kitchen for about half an hour, drank coffee, and thought about all this. Damn uni. I completely forgot that I had to go to school. I quickly got ready and flew out of the apartment. Today is an important couple and had to call a taxi. I spent half a day at the university. And as you might guess, I forgot about this hand, dogs, curtains, and so on. Then I went with a classmate to drink beer. We sat like this in a cafe until 10 in the evening. I drank glasses, maybe 2 or 3, and a little bit covered me after saying goodbye to my friend. I got on the minibus and went home, entering the courtyard. I observed the same picture as yesterday. All windows were heavily curtained, except mine. I entered the entrance. The door on the first floor was open, and her grandmother was looking out. She looked at me as if I had interfered with her borscht with horseradish. Then a second door opened. The grandfather has already looked out, and he gave me the same look. Out of surprise, I stopped at the ground floor suddenly. My grandfather grabbed my jacket with his hand, looking me straight in the eyes. He began to mutter this nonsense. I will try, of course, to convey word for word, but I don't promise anything. Boy, while you're young, run away from here. Run, close the curtains. Otherwise it will be bad for us. He's walking right next to him. Run it goes, boy, run. His eyes were furious and looked straight into mine. I even got a little lost. The hop left immediately. This grandmother was also standing nearby, and she looked at me the same way. I felt that look right in the back of my head. It was scary, but after a few seconds, fear was replaced by anger. I threw back the old man's hand and abruptly ran home, locked up in an apartment. Some sick, that old one pissed me off. I undressed and sat down at the computer. 5 minutes later I closed it. Stop. Grandpa's words popped into my head. It goes to run. You know, I would have thought it was all old bullshit, but I weighed all these events for the last 2 days, and it looked suspicious. Then I heard the dogs barking again, much stronger than last time. Slowly, fear began to creep in on me. I looked out the window. What I saw shocked me, to say the least. There was a man standing in the yard, well, like a person. He had a strangely shaped head and some unnaturally long arms. He stood on the playground and did not even move. I stared at him, and I thought he was staring at me too. I could feel his eyes on me, and I did not like this feeling at all. It was creepy and I couldn't help it. I couldn't even look away from it. What is he standing there, and who is he at all? Then he began to move towards the house and went out under the street lamp. At this point, my heart almost sank into my heels. He moved very interestingly, dancing or something and smiling. The smile was dumb. Probably because of it I felt uncomfortable. Well, maybe some drunk has got drunk and is merrily going home. I reassured myself, but something inside told me that this was not an alcoholic. He also walked, dancing to my very entrance. Here I realized what was wrong, and realized that this was not a man at all. It came under the entrance. All this time I watched from the window. I wish I hadn't done that and covered the windows like I was told before, or I'd just get the hell out of here. But no, old grandfather's nonsense turned out to be true. In short, he stood under the entrance, then disappeared from my field of vision. Maybe he went into the entrance, I thought, but no, a minute later, maybe even less. I saw a hand on the window, and then a face appeared, if you can call it that. What the hell was it doing outside the window? How did it stay there, and who is it at all? Smiling, pale skin and black eyes, it looked at me through the glass and smiled. Then she began to softly pound on him with her fist. The force of the knock increased, and I realized that a little more and it would knock him out. Shattering the curtains on the windows, I ran into the corridor, and then I heard the glass crashing out and approaching footsteps. Gotta run. I put on slippers, put on a jacket in 5 seconds and flew out of the apartment. Going down the stairs, I heard 2 loud knocks on my door, only from inside the apartment. Once outside, I glanced at my window. This creature stood and looked at me from my window. Then something happened that almost made me sick. It crawled out of my window and started crawling down the wall like a fucking spider. I started to run. He ran like crazy without looking back, ran for 10 minutes. Adrenaline is unreal. Ran in general on the way to another street. Breathed out completely, stopped for a break. Turned around, in the light of the lantern, it again danced in my direction. But how? I ran from him. Why is it clinging to me? What the hell is this? It's unrealistic. Fear gripped my body. There was no one on the street. Not a single soul. Not a car. I no longer had the strength to run. The legs felt like cotton. And it seemed that I was about to lose consciousness. Meanwhile, it, also dancing, slowly approached me. I couldn't take it anymore and called out to him. What do you want from me? It stopped and stared at me. Why are you following me? What did I do to you? It also stood and looked at me with its black eyes, and with a stupid smile on his face. It was light from the lantern, and I saw him clearly. Then he started moving towards me again, only much faster. I ran again. And God, how lucky I was that there was a police bob around the corner of the house. They came to the call, probably, I don't know, so I opened the door and jumped in. Hey boy, what are you, guys, he's chasing me. Who is chasing? Are you around the corner? In a suit, breathless, I said. One of the cops got out and looked over there. Boy, there's no one there. Are you smoked? And why are you running in slippers down the street in such a cold place? Yes, I did not use anything. We will check this now. Let's go to the department. Yes, let's go somewhere. The driver started the car and we went to the drug dispensary. Looked for drugs in my blood. But as expected, nothing was found there, and they let me go in the morning. I didn't want to go home. It was terribly cold. I found a couple of kopecks in my jacket to call a taxi. I had to go home. Everything is there. Laptop, clothes. In short, having taken all the things from the apartment, I went to a friend's hostel. I'd rather be there among the people and close to uni. I lived quietly for exactly a week. Everything would be fine if one fine evening, while preparing to eat in the kitchen, I did not see a handprint on a frozen window from the outside and a dancing silhouette in the light of a lantern on the street.